Hello everyone, I welcome all of you to Wire, and today we are going to cover something very important, which is the five do's and don'ts of TISS DAF. Now, everyone knows that the way to get in right after our examinations, the next step that comes in, once we all qualify, once we are all done, and we are now very sure that we are going to face the institute, we have to fill in our DAFs, the detailed application form, which is launched on their own website, and you have a deadline to fill it in. So let's take a look at what are the five do's and what are the five don'ts which we have to take care of while filling up our test tab. So the first one is that read the instructions very carefully. So each part is very important. So take care of each and every instructions. In order to make it a little more easier for you, I will take you through the DAF to these images. So here is a screenshot of the DAF 2018-2019 as you all can see. So when I say that follow the instructions very carefully. Now, for example, the first part over here, paste one recent passport size photograph here with your signature on it. So make sure you're not only pasting the photograph, but you do have the signature on it. And when you sign, make sure the part signature is on the picture and part signature, it ends on the paper. It will be and it is mandatory for you to sign on it. Any mistake with regards to the submission of this form or filling up of this form might lead to its rejection. So please be very careful when you're filling these forms up. Now the part A is general information, and you are supposed to fill in according to the instructions given here. This is about your family background. This is about your employability, whether you want to continue, how you're going to manage it. And this is about the part where they ask you about how are you going to manage the expenses. We then have a declaration by the applicant. Again, this is another part where you have to sign your declaration. And if you will be appearing for your final year, then this applies to you. Otherwise, this does not apply to you. So make sure you thoroughly study your DAF before you're filling it in. Now, this is the part B of the form. So the DAF is basically divided into two major parts, DAF part A and DAF part B. The part B somewhat looks like this. The first page is very simple, just your normal details. Again, a passport size photo with your signature on it. But the second part is where you have to mention your academic details. So you have to mention your SSC or its equivalent, class 10, class 12, graduation, if you've already done a post-graduation degree. So the post-graduation degree or any other degree or diploma, please make sure you're not filling in any certifications over here. That is why it is extremely important to follow all the instructions very, very carefully. Now, this is another part. This is the continued part of part B. And this is the part where you need to fill in if you have any gap year. So you need to mention the period unaccounted. Gap year means unaccounted period, or gap year means any time, that time where neither were you working nor were you studying. So this can be a gap between your schooling and your graduation, your post-graduation, or your graduation or other sort of any activity which took some time for you to take up. So you need to mention it over here. And how did you spend this time? The eighth point over here is if you have applied for more than one program, have you qualified for PIT/PI of any other master's program at this institute? So make sure this is only related to this, not any other university interviews that you are appearing for. And why are you interested in pursuing this course, and write a biographical sketch. So these two parts are very subjective, it's not objective. It's not something that requires a lot of knowledge. It's not something that requires details to be filled, simply details to be filled in, but it is actually going to test your written communication skills, and it is so that the institute can know you better. This is also a continuation of the part B, where you have to mention any relevant work done by you in the field that you are applying for. So, for example, you have applied for any course in psychology. You will only mention work done by you in the field of psychology. Which languages, and mention the proficiency, and are you employed, and the details of your employment will come here. Your work experience will not be a part of your education. But it is here, uh, part B, question 13, part 13, that you need to mention your work experience details. Moving on, the second do. You all saw the part A and part B. Please make sure you're providing accurate information. Now, the subjective parts are where it gets a little tricky. So make sure whatever you mention, it's clear and it's concise. So while this course, you should be very clear with your thoughts. You should be very clear with your writing, and it should not be like a story. It should be something which is very concise, very crisp, very easy for the reader to understand, and it's very easy for them to learn about you. So make sure that whatever you write is completely and 100% accurate, and it is clear and concise. The final two do's are highlight your achievements. So while you are talking about yourself in your bio sketch, make sure you highlight your achievements. The part which speaks about relevant experience, do talk about any achievements in that particular field that you have achieved. Write and rewrite your DAF. So it's not something that you should wait for your cutoff to get cleared, or for the DAF to launch, or for the deadline to come. Make sure you have several versions of this DAF so that you can read your DAF, write it again, and then rewrite it until and unless you are 100% sure that yes, this is what is going to work for you and this is your perfect DAF. Having discussed about the do's, it's time we also take a look at the different don'ts. So don't be inauthentic. A lot of aspirants in the bid to crack this interview, to crack this, they do falsely increase their marks, or they falsely put up experience. Please don't do this. If going forward the institute comes to know this, they are going to reject your application, and trust me, they have years of experience and really good ways of conducting research on your profile, on your background. So please don't get into this mess. Be honest. Do not leave any section blank. So do not leave your bio sketch blank that I didn't know what to write, or do not leave the relevant experience blank. Fill in something, even if you do not have any sort of work experience. Do fill in that I currently do not have experience in this field. However, I have studied about it, and maybe you can mention about your certifications over here. Do not use abbreviations. A major mistake that a lot of aspirants make is that they write, say they're applying for the HR course, they will write HR. So the first use should be human resource, and and then you write HR in brackets, and the subsequent use can be HR. But even if it is normal, you might say that it's normal, and it's everyone knows the full form of this particular thing, like HR, or maybe MHA, or maybe MPH. So please do not take the liberty to use the abbreviations. At least the first time, make sure you're using the expanded form, and mentioning after mentioning the abbreviation in the bracket, the subsequent use is where you use the abbreviation, not otherwise. Even if you're using normal terminology like HIV, AIDS, make sure you are writing the full form at least for the first time. Do not use abbreviations otherwise. Final two don'ts: do not repeat the information. A lot of us, for example, have the habit of defining ourselves with the marks that we scored. So when you're writing your bio sketch, sometimes people tend to write that I, say, Riddhi Arora scored 55% in my class 10 or 95% in class 10. You've already mentioned how much you scored in your class 10. They have given you an entire section where you can mention how much did you score in your class 10 or 12 or your graduation. You do not need to repeat this information as a part of your identification, that is, as a part of your bio sketch. So make sure you're not repeating any sort of information throughout the DAF, and you don't make it very repetitive. You do not make it very monotonous and very boring for the exam, for the panelists. And the final is, do not forget to proofread. So proofreading is not only if you have not left, so of course checking if all the sections are filled in by you, duly filled in by you or not. But two of the very important things is grammar and spellings. These are the two extremely important things that you need to keep in mind so that your DAF is perfect. Make sure once the DAF comes, they have not mentioned word limit earlier, but if there is a word limit, do make sure that you are not crossing the word limit, neither are you falling short of the words. And do check grammar and spellings on a continuous basis. Make sure you're not making any mistakes with that regard. If you have any further doubts regarding your DAF, or if you are looking for mentored guidance under which you can fill in your DAF, you can prepare for your extempore or your OPIs. You can definitely get in touch by commenting "I do" in the comment box below. I hope that you can crack your TISS as soon as possible and come out with flying colors. All the best.